Hello everyone, my name is Delaire and I'd like to welcome you to a very special Darkflame Universe video. Just last week, the crash test phase of DLU's alpha testing celebrated its 1-year anniversary. So to celebrate, I decided to make a video where we'll be taking a journey through some of my footage from the past year and discussing the changes and improvements to DLU during that time. Some of this footage has already been published without commentary, but most of it has never been seen before. Alright, so without further ado, let's jump right in. When the crash test launched last year, the two zones that were available to us were the Venture Explorer, which is what we're seeing right now, and Avant Gardens. After getting the Venture Explorer, I was blown away with how much was working, especially after what had been seen during the winter testing in late 2019.
To move around, press wonderful.
Collecting Imagination power-ups worked wonderfully, quick builds and bouncers worked, and rocket building with the thinking hat seemed just as I remembered. With Venture Explorer out of the way, let's launch our rocket for the first time and blast off to Avant Gardens. Now that we've landed in Avant Gardens, one of the first things to do is get a weapon from Epsilon. Sword gang! Now that we have a weapon, let's see how the enemy AI is functioning. When the crash test first started, I was impressed that the enemy AI was working, but as you can see, there are some issues. A few examples are the Stromlings would run on the air, like up in the air. The turret quick builds would not disappear until they were built. Even after the mechs respawn, the quick builds would stay there. And sometimes things would spawn at odd angles, like the turrets. In the first release of the crash test, players were able to progress up until they got the trial faction gear from Melody Foxtrot. Unfortunately, while players could receive the trial faction gear, it did not equip properly, and the mission would therefore not complete. Although we could not progress further than that, the developers did spice things up a little bit by spawning a Forbidden Valley dragon onto the Avant Gardens battlefield. Unfortunately, the server did crash before we could beat it and get any rewards. Because the trial faction gear did not equip properly, players could not progress through the mission chain to get access to the monument. Or could they? A few days into testing, I discovered a way to jump up the wall in the tunnel to the monument and gain access to the monument area. Once I figured out how to get up, I showed fellow tester Tiffany electricity, and we explored the monument area. As the monument was not yet intended to be accessible, many things were not fully implemented yet, such as the buttons to turn off the fans, and several quick builds, such as the yellow path platform and some of the orange path builds as well. After much trial and error, we found a way to get onto the monument without using the usual methods. Instead, we used a quicksicle and some cleverly timed jumps to jump from off of the monument to part of the way through the orange path of the monument. Once we got onto the monument, it did not take too long for us to explore and eventually figure out how to reach the launch area, as some of the quick builds and some of the fans were actually working. Unfortunately, all the vendors at the launch area wanted us to beat the Spider Queen before we could talk to them, so we were not able to do much. Even still, the experience of exploring and finding the way up the monument without using most of the usual methods was great fun, and I'd like to thank Tiffany for a great time. One of the first updates to the game was improving the enemy AI. As you can see here, the strong ones no longer float, the turrets despawn correctly, and all the enemies are behaving as they did back in the day. Fairly soon, trial faction gear was added, and players were able to complete the next few mission chains and gain access to the monument the normal way. Unfortunately, much like before, a lot of the monument was not yet working, so finding another way up the monument was still needed. This is also where the mission chain ended, and players could not gain access to the missions at the launch area yet. The game stayed in a state much like this until mid to late October. In the weeks leading up to the October updates, there was a bit of a lull in the testing phase. During that time, NinjaofLU and I decided to record a collaborative video showing the current state of the game and discuss both the past and the future of the Darkflame Universe Alpha Test. It was a lot of fun to make this video, but unfortunately, a lot of the footage was lost, which led to this video never being released. But I'm going to feature some of the footage that did survive here. After creating new minifigures and working our way through the Venture Explorer and into Avant Gardens, one of the things we did was get partially out of bounds in the Sentinel base camp. I don't think you can actually get too far out of bounds with this trick, but it is pretty neat. As we ended up doing all the missions that were currently available at the time of the recording, we got to try out some different faction gear than our main figures. So here is a clip of the Space Marauder trial gear in action against some of the Spiderlings. When we were heading to the monument, we compared our two methods of getting up the wall in the tunnel without using the bouncer. Ninja's method seems quite effective, but requires a little bit more finesse, as you have to have some cleverly timed jumps as opposed to just using a quizzical and running and jumping up the wall. Once we got to the monument, we were able to refine the method of ascent that Tiffany and I had discovered earlier into a quicker and more effective way of getting up the monument. Recording this video with Ninja was a blast. It was great to talk to him about the different phases of testing and play through the game with him. And although it never saw the light of day, I'm glad we got a chance to film it. October 2020 marked the 10th anniversary of the original release of LEGO Universe. DLU celebrated by releasing a bunch of new content. Nimbus Station was finally here. Arriving at Nimbus Station for the first time was amazing. It was great to finally see it again after over 8 years. Everything was looking fantastic. The plaza and brick annex seemed to be almost fully functional. Red blocks did have a few issues, however. The imagination brick was automatically unlocked, which I'm okay with, by the way. But the instruments were also not yet implemented, and only one stage light build seemed to be spawned. Race Place was looking great, but neither Racing nor Nexus Tower had yet been implemented. Foot races did work though, so here's my first attempt at a foot race in DLU. At this point, the leaderboards did not work, so we could not compare our times to other players at the moment. We were also now able to join a faction. I joined the Sentinels faction and got the Knight Rank 1 kit. Man, it was great to use faction gear again. Once I joined the Sentinel faction, I tried out building an instrument at Red Blocks and found out that, yes, it didn't actually work, and I also explored the rest of Nimbus Station. In this next clip, I demonstrate the rank 1 knight's abilities against some dark spiderlings in Avant Gardens. This update also included some upgrades to the monument. The buttons were now operational, and a few more quick builds were functional, but the yellow path was still not accessible. There was one more cool thing that was added for the 10th anniversary of LEGO Universe, and that was a heavily modified version of the Battle of Nimbus Station. This version of the Battle of Nimbus Station was only available for a brief amount of time and is currently not available for testers. In this version, as opposed to the normal waves that you had to fight off in the Battle of Nimbus Station, a whole bunch of enemies from Crux Prime respawned. I was able to smash several named enemies from Crux Prime, which allowed me to get some rare drops and complete some Crux Prime achievements, even though I'd only been to Avant Gardens and Nimbus Station. I did attempt to face the Skulkin from the Ninjago section of Crux Prime, but I didn't have much luck against them. Around this time, Pet Cove, Spider Queen Battle, and Gnarled Forest were launched as well. Pet taming worked, but none of the pet bounces worked, so it was impossible to complete the mission chain in Pet Cove. The Spider Queen battle worked surprisingly well, and seemed mostly, if not fully, complete. This also meant that the Blockyard property was accessible. Brick building and behaviors still are not implemented, but you could place both models and pets on your property and visit properties made by other players, which is pretty sweet. Here's an example property that I threw together fairly quickly. The monument was now fully operational with all quick builds working. Here is a clip of the yellow path elevator working. Now that the yellow path was accessible, it was possible to get the Imagination Brick in Avant Gardens. Although pet bouncers did not yet work, it was still possible to get the Triceratops pet if you used a little parkour. It is now time to journey into the gnarled forest.
Look around by holding down the right mouse button and moving the mouse. Well done.
Quite impressively, this world is practically fully implemented. As you can see, binoculars, torches, and quick builds are all working great. In the Maelstrom Trench, the Stromling Pirates AI is working great, and the Sentinel block capability is demonstrated well here. As you can see here in Brig Rock, both the Stromling Admirals and the Maelstrom chests are working well. Stromling apes are also mostly working at this point, but the anchors did not yet drop. It is also possible to get the Gnarled Forest Imagination Brick. Now we're arriving at the pirate camp. Unfortunately, the shooting gallery is not yet implemented, but pretty much everything else is. At the time this clip was recorded, the campfires did not work, but they have been implemented since. Pirate-only quick builds are working properly, so it is possible to get to the race place in Gnarled Forest. One of the next things to be implemented was pet bouncers. This meant that the rest of Pet Cove was now accessible. Even though no one else was here while I was in Pet Cove, I still was able to find a way to get the Imagination Brick. The fire hydrants in the Terrier section were also working properly. Another world that we now had access to was Return to the Venture Explorer. The next few clips show that combat works well with every type of enemy on the Venture Explorer. I was quite impressed that the Venture Explorer is fully implemented. One world we did not expect to get until beta testing started was Forbidden Valley. As you can see in the text box here, this world is a preview, so there are still some issues. The main gate is as imposing as ever and works great. Both paths around it also work well. Combat at Mantis Rocks is working great. The AI for the Dark Ronin is very accurate and works well. Foot races in Forbidden Valley work too. Once again, the leaderboard was not yet working. The horsemen are implemented well, and the quick builds work. At the Fallen Gate, combat also works great. The Ninja Hood gateways also work fantastically. Interestingly enough, the music that plays right here is actually a song from the original LEGO Universe beta test back in spring and summer 2010. It's kind of faint, but it is pretty cool that this music stuck around. Brick Fury is also working well, but the enemies seem to have a bit of a hard time getting into his range. Unfortunately, it is not currently possible to get the Imagination Brick in Forbidden Valley, as the pipes do not drop a quick build. Dragon Battle also works great. The Dragon Breath does damage properly, and the quick build and corresponding animations are implemented well. The team's function works great in Dragon Battle as well, as you can see here. Another thing that has been added to DLU is a player versus player mode, which can be a lot of fun. To everyone's excitement, racing was also recently added. More clips on that later. When racing was announced, I contacted NinjaofLU to see if he wanted to do a collaborative video that showcased the new features in Forbidden Valley and around Darkflame Universe. The next few clips are a sneak peek at some footage from our upcoming collaborative series called One Race with Ninja. The first clip here shows the power of a shovel in Darkflame Universe. This is a great way to do PvP without other people turning on PvP mode. All 3 main racetracks are currently working. The Dragon Maw Chasm in Forbidden Valley is the most buggy though. As you can see in this clip, when I crashed, it moved me from lap 2 to lap 3, effectively skipping a whole lap. The Keyhall Canyon in Gnarled Forest is pretty much perfect. Everything seems accurate to what I remember from back in the day. Vertigo Loop is also working great and is also pretty much perfect. It was great fun to film this collaborative series with Ninja, so be sure to check out the first part of One Race with Ninja, which is coming soon to YouTube. While we were filming that video, there was an update to the game. Water sprayers now worked on skunks and red and green dragons. Also, the instruments at red blocks were now working, which is what you can see here. I was shocked that we got Forbidden Valley in the alpha test of Darkflame Universe, but I was definitely not expecting Nexus Tower. Nexus Tower is mostly implemented, but things like the Sentinel metal detector vent things and the Nexus Force cleaning outfit are not yet fully implemented. Oh yeah, another thing that is not yet implemented is the automatic recharging of imagination when you're standing in the Nexus core. It was great to go back to Nexus Tower and visit the Sentinel room again. It has been too long for sure. I'm not sure how many people know this, but if you walk to the back of Duke Exeter's room, a shade opens and lets you see the Imagination Nexus. I didn't find out about this until LEGO Universe was about to close, so I thought I'd mention it. The Sentinel Combat Simulator is working pretty well, but it seems that it counts damage even if there's no mannequin spawn to fight. This means that if you have a wormholer, you're probably going to get a very high score. One of my favorite things about Nexus Tower is the vault. Look at how much space is in there. I offloaded tons of stuff from my backpack right away. I'm really glad that the vault is working perfectly. I was also impressed to see that the Darkitect cutscene was working. It even removes all of your health, except for one point, of course. The next few clips showcase a little bit of exploration I did around Nexus Tower when I first went there. The most recent update to the game added leaderboards to all foot races and added the highly anticipated Monument Race in Avant Gardens. This next clip is my first attempt at the Monument Race. I chose to use the yellow path in this run, and I got a pretty good time. I knew I could do better though, and I used a custom route to get my time down to 19 seconds. I think I can shave off a little bit more time, but I need to do some more preparation before I try again. This clip here is not from my 19-second run, it's just used to show the leaderboard and to keep my route a secret for now. I know Viceski, Ninja, and the speedrunning community have their own way of getting up that is very quick, but I have not had much luck with that route so far. As the foot race leaderboards are also now working, here is one of my attempts at the Avant Gardens foot race. Well, that wraps up the footage for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. It has been a pleasure to share updates about DLU with you all for the past year, and I look forward to the rest of the crash test and the start of beta testing. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions or comments about the game or this video, please let me know in the comments below. As I mentioned earlier, the One Race with Ninja series is coming soon, so be sure to look out for that. I would like to thank all of the DLU developers as well as my fellow testers for the past year of great memories. See you all next time. Take care.